Welcome to episode 127 of Live Drawing. Tonight, as I said in the description, we're going to be working on the next episode, the next page of Undersea Hero. This is page 47 for those playing along at home. We're making our way through this book for the line art. And I had a couple of people message me. I plan on, when I finish the line art, as far as the update goes for the next thing on the Kickstarter, is that once the line art is done, I will then send out, because that would mean that, to me, the bulk of the work is done. And then we will send out the email questionnaires, surveys, however you want to call them, to get everybody's shipping info and everything, and get that lined up for when we place the print order. Which will, it's coming together. It's taking a long time, but we're getting there. All right, you can see here, this is our prelim. You can see we've got some falling Krill Force members falling from the sea. And then this is our one little vignette character. And one thing you'll notice throughout this whole book is that there are a lot of one-page, two-page little side bits that are, jokes or ideas that I had that I've woven in between with characters that we may see them again in the future, we may not. This is obviously just one where you can see our Krill Force guy. It's a close-up just saying it's not worth it, it's not worth it. And then this hand grabs him on the shoulder, and then you can see him screaming and running away, and then it's a severed arm. It's for laughs. Anyway, we'll get to work. I've already done basically the spacing. Is what I did with the blue pencil so far, just so that I got my thirds. I've got my overall flow. The back hill, I've added a little bit of more background at the top, just because it is our establishing shot. We want to make sure that we get our textures right and everything to establish what's going on. And there is a cast shadow because our light source here is up over here. So like our light source, I always mark an X where I'm going to put the light source, and it comes down like that. I am going to make one adjustment, I think, to my screen. No, forget it. It'll be fine. But yeah, this is coming along. I can't tell everybody how happy I'll be when, I know everybody's anxious to read it. I'm anxious to get it done, to the best of my abilities. And I want a book everybody's proud of. I want it to be one of those books that when you move in the future, you're like, you know what? I'm not going to throw that one out. I'm going to put it in a box. I'm going to bring it with me. That's what we're hoping for. I've been going through some of my old process files and looking at some of my old work from 10 or 15 years ago. Some of the first comics I did on my own. And looking at those characters again. I actually did some sketches of them, some of the characters I hadn't drawn in many years. I did a book called Small Town Type. That was really the first book that I showed off and did on my own in the area. And I did 4 complete single issues, a king-sized annual, and a one-shot of one of the characters. And I'm thinking about just posting them on my website so that they have a place to exist. And people want to read basically looking at like my baby pictures of drawing. You can see some horrible drawing, but I think there's some good ideas that are salvageable in there. They were done earnestly. I will say that. A love for comics. One of the characters is upside down, so it's easier for me to draw with the paper upside down. I did know one artist that could draw upside down. That was Rich Buckler. I was at a convention once, and he had a sketchbook upside down, and the person was on the other side of the table, and he drew Deathlock perfectly. upside down. Not anything I ever thought to try. Very simple cartoon language. The X's over the I's, so that of course means that he is deceased. And when I'm drawing their little hands, I try to envision the shapes and the space between the shapes functioning more like, like skin would rather than like a shell. And then I'll just draw little hinges that kind of look like they're hinges. What am I reading? Lately, I've been reading what is a reprint of some of the early Lee Falk Phantom strips. I don't know why. I just I bought it ages ago out of like a dollar bin, and I never read it. So I found it in a pile in a closet when I was cleaning my office, and I was like, yeah, I'll read that. Why not? That's pretty much what I've been reading lately. I haven't been to the comic store in a little bit. I've been a bad pull customer, even though I only have 2 comics in my pull. Try to get over there this week. I've offered to buy one of those things. If there's a comic store owner listening, I would be interested to hear. I know they changed the laws as far as keeping a credit card on file. Like I used to do that with my comic book store, and they weren't allowed to do that anymore. That way, just when books show up, they could charge my card, and then when I came in, I would sign the slips or whatever. That way the store wasn't out any money. And I offered to basically buy credit by buying a gift certificate. Like I'd buy a gift certificate and then you could put that on file. So basically I'd be paying for everything in advance. And they said no, just because they didn't want to have to manage it. But I thought it would be an easy way in case, I was late getting to pick up my pull. They could just, pull out the gift certificate and say like, $20 this week and knock that off the $100 or whatever that I bought the gift card for. I was just trying to think of ways to make it easier for an LCS, in the event where I can't get over to that shop, for a few weeks. And this one actually has like what looks like, bubbles coming off of him. So it occupies a certain amount of space here. And what I wanted it to do was to give it a sense of motion. So like some bubbles coming off of him as though he had just like been plunged underwater without giving any spoilers away. I know I've shown off basically like every page I've done of this book in its line art form. And I've argued that there aren't any spoilers, but those were the 2 pages that I decided I couldn't show. I feel like that surprise needed to be there whenever anybody picks up the book or looks at the book or gets the book in the mail. But yeah, upside down. You can see he's like, I'm scared. I'm scared, Sarge. We're all scared, Sarge. I don't know if a Krill Force solo story would sell, but I do think that it could be fun. It would be fun to draw at least. everybody's having a nice evening. I hope everyone had a good New Year. I know that there's some terrifying stuff going on out in California, and I've got some friends out there, so I hope everybody's safe. And if they have to evacuate, that they're taken to a safe place. I did see that a couple of my friends had to be evacuated. And they're worried, obviously they're worried about their homes, so I'll be thinking about them and their families. I actually have 2 covers I have to finish this month too, so my friend Allison, who we started that cover on the stream here, and then my buddy Jeff asked me to do a cover for one of his books, and those are 2 of the people that anytime I can do something for them, I'm happy to. Sometimes I get a little backed up with stuff, but we will make it happen. We'll find a way, and they'll be good. I've turned down so many jobs since the start of this project that those were 2 that I can't say no to, just because they're friends, and it's not like, here's a giant intellectual property that you need to work on or something, which I did turn down, a big one. It wasn't a comic book; it was a game, but it still would have been one of those where it's like, oh, how could you turn that down? Well, to be honest, just because it was popular doesn't mean that it was one that I grew up enjoying. So, that made it a little easier. There it is. There's that pencil. I actually want to simplify this line here. I'm really not happy with that there. It's too. There we go. I like that better. Sometimes when I see something elsewhere on a page, I just got to go and make the fix. Let me see if I can arrange this to where you can see both pieces. There we go. Instead of putting another face here, I just decided to put a hand, and I put the face over here of the reaction. So my pal Jay gave me a call. Jay Kennedy is another comic artist from the Boston area, and he was saying that he was looking for a new computer. And I told him about my computer, and I was surprised to see that some of the HP deals that were for Black Friday are not. It's not quite as good, but they still have a bunch of stuff that they had from them on sale, including the computer that I got. So if you're looking for a laptop with 64 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of memory, you can pick one up for a pretty good deal. And they are not a sponsor, obviously, since I just paid for my computer. So, but if they would like to give me a rebate or something, that'd be great. Or for my referral, if I could get a future discount for my referral, even shady gym memberships give you that. Let's flip this over. upside down Krill Force warrior, our fallen Krill Force. I'm sure there's a better joke in there for casualties. Instead of krill, maybe it's a prawn or a crustacean joke. Let's see what we can do here. A Krilljualty. Yeah, something along those lines. Good to see you, Doug. There's a joke in there. I don't know what it is. See if I can come up and crack that code before it goes to press. The thing that's really fun about these little guys is that, like, their design is so just ridiculous. Like, their eyes are nowhere near where like a shrimp's eyes are. They look more like headlights for a bumper car. So, like, I don't really have any attachment to the, what's the word, anatomy. When you're drawing a person, you've got to have all this believable stuff. But these little shrimp guys, it's like, do they emote and tell the story enough? And that's kind of the end of my list for what I'm checking, because there can be variation from one krill to the next. Also, their little arms are just ridiculous, and the stupid tail that like juts underneath like they're cooked shrimp. And our light source is up over here, so we probably need more shadow on this arm. Probably need to have a little bit more shadow just on that side of the head in general. Don't want too much, but we need enough. This is just your run-of-the-mill 0.5 HB lead. This is the Uni brand. Kuratoga HB. It's smoother than like the big stuff you get at the local grocery store. At this point, with these characters, like, I'm really more, instead of just like drawing right now, I'm making notes almost. I need to get the spacing right and the proportion right, but I do most of the extra stuff in the inking stage on these guys, because I'm not really, adding a ton of finish to them. Like, so I'm not doing like a big long crosshatchy rendering. So Douglas says I really should have learned how to spot blacks. Yeah, I tend to, when I go into it, I overdo it. And I'm trying to think of foreground, midground, background. Like I have I'm using shadow to frame over here, and then I'm doing it here again. This is basically the same trick in 2 spots on the same page. I'm trying to get you to look here, so I'm circling you. I'm actually going to have like a tapered line here that gets thicker and thicker, and then because I put, you can't see it really yet, but you can see that there's like a little bit of a line here where there's some bubbles, and then I'm going to use those bubbles to do another cast shadow on the background here on this little hill. This is just a little sandy hill that they're in front of, and then we'll be able to darken that in. And then you have it cut over the foot like that. So you've created layering. And again, nobody's going to notice it, except for some reason it works. Like you can't have the antenna touching the top because then that breaks your depth here. He needs to be set back. So you can't have the antenna touching there. And then if I create a couple of layers here with where the foreground bubbles are, that shadow, and his foot breaking that shadow, and then you have this foot in front of this shadow, you're just creating those layers all the way back. And I'm just using the spotted black areas to try to frame it. I actually think that because of that, where that line is, this will be completely black here. This we'll add more bubbles coming this way. We can add some extra bubbles coming up. And then put some in front of those lines. Again, just trying to create those layers. Oh, thanks, Snuggles. And then, as you know, you have your shorthand cartooning textures. And for me, on the sand in the background, it's just a few little dots here and there that react to your light source. So you're going to have more little dots over here. And then right in here, maybe we'll have even just a few. And then that'll be it. And it's kind of encircling the where the brightest port of light would be on that hill, which would probably be either here or here from where that light source is. I've been trying to just incorporate some of it. Like, the good thing about having an underwater comic is that anytime I can create an organic shape, that's like a whoosh of water, and then this can be fully blacked out, and then I can put my character in front of it, and then that creates the, your layering, if it's your panel, if you have the fist framed by, where the black isn't, and then the head up here, and the hand coming forward, you've essentially, with just one little whoosh, created 1, 2, 3, 4 layers with your character. And that doesn't include whatever shading or design you're putting on your character. I started writing a blog today that I might need to bounce some ideas off you, Doug. It's the topic is basically, I was looking for a way to. I've been running into some folks that had asked me like how to draw comics over the years. So like, I would tell me I want to draw comics, and you've met plenty of these folks yourself, and I think that the basis is that there's 2 different meanings to I want to draw comics. And there's actually many because of like the way that we've kind of like homogenized what all the different things that I want to draw comics could entail. Difference between wanting to draw your own comics or just draw comics and wanting to draw those comics, as I refer to it as, and that being like, comics for other people, whether it's intellectual properties that you like or characters that you grew up reading, but like the big difference. Bill Everett's Venus did a lot of great stuff with that whoosh type thing. Bill Everett just did a lot of great stuff with that whoosh type thing. 100%, yeah. His return to Submariner in the 70s, I think, is just one of the most. It's an unprecedented return to a creation for another company, and then to have somehow gotten better from when he was in the 40s. the textures, the layouts, the compositions, like his stuff was just top notch. And he was, I don't know how many times does a creator, like 30 years after they had created a character, go back and, you know, at that point he was an older guy and just do an amazing job. You know, I know comics was different back then with, you know, they hired a lot of their old buddies, you know, basically Stan's pals. But then at that time when he came back, I don't even remember if Conway was the EIC at that time or if Roy Thomas was still the editor-in-chief. I don't know, but you know, and how many times has a creator gone back and it's just the same magic hasn't been there? But in this case, like he went back and just was like, it was amazing. I don't remember how many issues he did, 12, 15 issues. That's true. Yeah. And this isn't really about why. This is about like when they just say they want to draw comics. Because I saw a few people that I knew that I had spoken to and become like friends with on social media or whatever. Basically, be like, I'm mad that I'm not drawing Spider-Man or whatever, and I'm not getting these big time jobs. And you know, I see when I give, you know, I look back on when I spoke to them, I was giving them advice of like how to make good comics and not necessarily like tailor your portfolio for, you know, a job with, you know, a specific publisher. I just think that, you know, discussing like how the term comics has been used for too many things, including like a genre of other things. And it just makes it confusing. And that if, you know, you want to speak to creators and get the best advice, just being specific, like, hey, I just say I want to draw Spider-Man or I want to draw whatever. And it's like, hey, do you know how I can, you know, get my stuff ready or whatever? Yeah, you know, but I can understand that. Like you know, you got into comics because you like this character or that character. You know, when I was younger, I thought about it that way. But when I got, and I mean when I was really young, but once I got into like making my own stuff, I was like, I'd really like to do this. But then I, you know, worked on various comics for other companies for years. But it was because I made those self-made comics. Those just happened to lead to other paid jobs. And then like people I knew would ask me to do stuff. The only time I ever made a I mean, and that's fair to be like, do you have a story to tell? And the interesting thing that I note in the blog so far is that when I met people that wanted to do their own thing, they lead with that. Like they lead with that. They're like, hey, I want to make my own comics. I have this comic I'm working on. These are my characters, or like, would you like to see what I've got going on? Rather than like saying that I want the generic, I want to draw comics. You know, Like this Undersea Hero story, like I kicked it around after college for like years, and it marinated and it changed, and some of it didn't change at all, and I probably should have because there's some really juvenile stuff in it, but sadly, I still find some of that very funny. Um, and that's what I'm gonna highlight that one, Doug. We're gonna post that one because that's a good piece of advice. Just if you do your own work, you have that chance for success as well as some companies seeing your work, and that's generally what I tell people. It's like, after they tell you they've got an idea for a 10,000 page graphic novel that will come out in like a 30 edition slipcover folio thing, which we all know has never happened. But I had been pitched like graphic novel series by aspiring authors that just wandering up to my booth at conventions. Just do 8 pages. Just start with an 8 page story. It's yours. You own it. You can do whatever you want with it. It can just be your portfolio piece, or it can grow into something else, or you can submit it to an anthology, or you can make your own anthology. Like there's no downside to having finished work that you own ever. I mean, I do think that like when you're going for the other thing, and that's the only reason you want to get into making comics, it is a little different. You're going to spend your time just making sample pages after sample pages after sample pages. You're going to go to any portfolio review you can do. You can San Diego, New York, all the open calls. There's just there's a dedication that has to go to like tailoring your stuff for those opportunities. But yeah, making your own stuff, like that's how my stuff got seen. Like I did my comics. I went to New York Comic Con. I took the $20 bus from Boston at like 4 in the morning, earlier 3 in the morning. Went to every publisher that was set up at the show, showed them my stuff, got little gigs here and there, and just built from there. Like that was the path. And I don't even know if that path still exists. It might. I know that when I've been at a show and somebody showed me their work and I've really liked it, I've been like, hey, I'll pay you to do a pinup of one of my characters or whatever. I've definitely done that. It's extraordinarily rare. I've maybe done it 3 times. I've offered it a couple of times where they've been like, nah, but hey, Desiree, good to see you. How are things how are things where you are? I know there's some scary stuff out on the West Coast there. Air quality's bad. Yeah. It's got to be. I remember when, there were those fires happening up in Canada and we were getting the big cloud plumes here in the Northeast. And that was I definitely noticed it. So stuff happening that close, it's got to be even worse. I drew so many of these little shrimp on that one splash page that I can draw like so many different poses of them with my eyes closed now. I don't want too much going on. There's got to be a space here so that, like, with all the chaos that's around it, there's going to be some space. Like, even though I could easily fill that with like falling little krill people, I'm not going to. So we'll have a few on the fringes of the water plume here. That'll be that. And then this will just be blue. And then what'll probably happen is there will be like a little halftone that almost creates that saintly. This is what I do. Like I plan out the colors while I'm penciling or drawing it, or even doing the layouts. Almost like a saintly orb around that's just vacant from the blue. I'll probably put just a little bit of a tapered Ben-Day pattern right on the edge there, and then there will be some white, so it'll really like pull the compilation. I want to redraw this hand. To me, this is not, it doesn't feel like it's moving from the side, so it's just kind of floating there. So what I want to do to create that idea is I want the hand to actually be breaking, instead of free and like you saw how it was before, the hand was free and nothing was touching this edge. I want it to be like this, where it's actually coming out from the edge. And just that little crop right there is going to give us some sense of motion. And then we can just put part of the thumb there like that. And the other fingers like that. Cleaned my office, so I found lots of nifty old artifacts from early in my career. Even though I moved here recently, there were still some boxes in like the closet and stuff. So I do think I am going to post some of that stuff on the website. I'm going to be revamping the Fat Cat Funnies website because that's going to be the hub for where the post Undersea Hero work is going to be posted. It's all going to go through my website. So like I'll post little teasers and stuff on social media, but I will not be posting any like finished pages there. At least that's the plan. And I've been doing some modifications to it on the back end, where you're going to be able to look at a comic and the page. To me, the page turn is one of the most important aspects of the comic reading and creating experience. So I wanted to find a way to incorporate that into the reading process. So I've been working on one of these gallery settings in my website where you'll only see one page at a time, and except when it's a 2-page spread. I thought about having all 2-page spreads because you can have, when you're reading a comic, you can see that far into the future. And I do think about that when I'm pacing a comic book. But I think I like the 1 page at a time. And then if it's a 2-page spread, you get the 2 pages and there's more impact there. eye is going to be a little bigger. Down some. Same trick for a third time on one page. I'm actually going to bring in like a heavy line here, and then we'll add just a little bit of a taper there to give a harder break point between the edge of the character and push that hand further back. And then we'll have kind of an undershadow on the palm and then right there. So hey, thanks, Douglas. Have a good night. Thanks for popping in. Page turn mechanics. It's the best. Figuring out a way to do that with a digital website. It's been one of my current charges, so that my website can have like the comic reading experience. So, Desiree, are the Dodgers going to sign all the free agents this offseason? The Red Sox sure are not going to sign all of the free agents. I was surprised they got Walker Buehler. So they still need a right-handed bat. The Red Sox do, but hey, that's what I mean. Sometimes they're able to find a little bit of hitting, off of the scrap heap. Because the year they got Mitch Moreland, he had a couple of good seasons for the Red Sox. They need somebody like that hits 20 to 30 home runs and gets on base. That's about 270, 280. Moreland hit higher than that, but that's the type of hitter I think they need. I think he'll be able to bring back Kike for sure. Flaherty, I don't know. I could see him. I could see Flaherty going elsewhere. But I think Kike, after having left LA, understands the good thing he's got going there now. He wasn't bad in Boston, but like he was not he's practically like a team captain and everything on the Dodgers. Like he's in a leadership role. I think that he's got a place. I hope he's over his yips. And look, I don't need him to be a number one starter. I just need him to be healthy and give us 175 innings. People don't pitch 200 innings anymore, but I need a person who can basically make up for not having a sixth inning guy out of the bullpen. That was the value of having guys like Tim Wakefield and even John Lackey, was that they were able to, and John Lester, like they were just able to pitch tons of innings. Yeah, glass elbow. I mean, they got him throwing so hard now. It's just, I remember, when I was playing ball, and that was like I was never going to play professionally, but I did play in college. And I played with guys who went on to play professionally. And back then, like, while you had the few meatheads who were like, I'm going to just throw it 100 miles an hour, you still had a lot of folks that were, finesse pitchers. Like, that was a time when, Maddox was winning Cy Youngs every year. And people looked at it like, you got to throw hard enough, but you don't have to, have a rocket launcher. Now you can see right here where, like, when the hand was in the middle, it didn't look like it was coming for him. But when it's like coming, like when it's breaking this line here towards the prawn, it has a much greater use of space, and it has like a bit of movement to it. And this last one, we bring the eye basically right up to the edge. What the movement is we're slowly moving the camera from left to right. And here we have the face centered. Camera moving, picks up the hand, moves again. The hand is going to touch him. And then there's going to be the wide shot. So it's establishing shot, 3-panel progression, and then it's not a return. It's not a true return, but it is a circular story moment, and it's completely self-contained. This is a one-page story. We have everything that we need to know as to the character's motivation, why they feel that way, what's happening. And then we have the fear, we have the hand, we have it touching his arm, and then he just runs away. So, like, you can see the hand that touches him is the classic horror moment where it's like the severed hand, like Jurassic Park or whatever, and then he just runs away. So, let's see if I can get this. That little line under his eye is tough because the carapace to his shell, I guess it's too far. It's too far. Because now we've cut this down. This has to be here, so it's really got to be like right there. Yeah. So we got to bring that in. Bring that up. That line back. And then how did I do this eye? Yeah, it was just your classic looks back. There was no major cartooning going on. And this, I mean, if you were to look at this one panel by itself, it is abstract. Like, without any other context, like, that is such a strange drawing. But once you add the context that you've all set up, like, you're building up the knowledge in the reader to the point where you can pare it down to these silly little shapes. Like, that is a strange composition, but people are going to understand like what is going on. And I think that that's good storytelling, is when you can peel away and abstract the visuals and still have everyone understand what's going on. I think that is good storytelling. Now here, where we didn't want it to touch, where we wanted it to break this line, we don't want it to touch this panel line, because then you're going to create an effect that you don't want, or that I don't want. That's the word. I'm not projecting. Thank you, Desiree. She says, I agree. I think since it comes from there and goes down, I'm going to lower it a little bit like that. Yeah. See if we can lower it a little bit more. You can see where the thumb's going to be. And I think we want to have the arm come in like that. Yes, that's what that line is. It's been so long since I looked at that. I couldn't read my. It's like not being able to read your own handwriting. Well, thank you. It's just a silly little shape. It's a very strange shape. Come back in, chunk this out a little bit. And it's just real simple. It's not there's no big gesture. There's a little eye cap, a little shadow underneath. Go. And then is another small thing, you can see the glimmer on the helmet is like a full round piece here on the first one. Then it's like part of one. And then this one, we're just going to completely black it out. This is just going to be all black. We'll have like one little bit of rim lighting on the back end, and that's it. This will just be blacked out. Put those X's like they used to do back in the 90s. Then we have the lip of the helmet. This line going ahead of this line gives you the distance between here and here, and it just gives you extra spacing. That's one of those little cartoonist tricks that you learn. I'm not sure which book I pulled that from, or if it was just observational. You know, I've got so many books I've read over the years of like cartooning. Like there's the Richard Williams Essential Guide for Animation that I think absolutely, because it's so much based in storyboarding, that it absolutely works for comics. Richard Williams was the main animator on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's right. The Krill army is legion. It is legion. I do think we will have the guess the number of Krill challenge at future shows on that one splash page. And look, if somebody at home uses the book to count how many that is, they deserve to win. There's one little vignette like this in the casino where the roulette wheel, you know, the little ball that gets knocked down onto the little spinny wheel. I have that to where there's another tiny sea creature that's actually the pilot of the little ball, and they're like a Steve McQueen Daredevil type character. He's like standing out in front of the sphere, what looks like a NASA launch pad. Smoking a cigarette, and then kisses his girlfriend and hops into the sphere, and then it's just a game of blackjack. You pull back, and it's just a little ball that goes bounce, 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 and it's a sight gag. And here you have a real simple 3-layered background, which is just, this is the other good thing about, an undersea comic. When you have a sandy bottom, you can create your backgrounds really easily. You can layer stuff really well. And what this does is you have your foreground, your midground, and your background right there, just 1, 2, 3, and it's done. And because it's an organic shape, we can just have our texture, which will be our sand dots. And we'll have the most on the foreground one, a couple on the midground one, and then none on the background one. And that'll give us even more depth. Because that's you have a tapering back of the texture to where this will basically just be, not white. It'll be probably with the ink mix, like an M1, Y2, something like that. But we're moving along. We got our big panel, 3 panels, and our last panel. What I can do is I can just put this here so people can see what we're drawing. Now we want the illusion that the arm is falling. So we're going to we've established what visual cues do that up here with those bubbles, as something's falling. And we will do the same thing here. So we use the same shadow trick here on all 3 panels, and then the same framing trick here on those 2 panels. And then we use the same information from the first panel that we established of this texture here and movement that says something's falling. And we're going to bring it back full circle to it being right here with the severed hand. I'm guessing this little vignette is going to be the thing that gets me the teen rating on Amazon. Now, I think we actually got to add something to this, because how do we know that this limb is this limb? I think what we need to do is we need to add just a little wristband onto this krill right here. So when we color this, there can be just a little indicator right here, because we've never seen it before. We've never seen a wristband on a Krill Force. That will visually tell us this is this. Because obviously, it could be this arm, could be this arm, could be that arm. But if we just put a little wristband on there, we now know that this is this arm. PG-13, right. There's our little bubbles. Got some more right here. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's no nudity in this book. I don't think there's any horrendous violence. There's no blood. But maybe this one little bit is enough for them to be like, you showed a severed arm of a krill. Now, to be fair, a krill, like other crustaceans, can grow its limbs back when it molts, just like any other shrimp. So. As a treat, yes, just a little treat of violence. I don't think maybe it is worse than Looney Tunes. I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched um, Wile E. Coyote in a while. Those got pretty violent with them blowing themselves up all the time with Acme devices to try to capture the Roadrunner. And yes, we'll use the same shadow trick with our cast shadow that we used earlier. That's true. That's true. Not any worse than Star Wars. I did get a nice present for Christmas. I got Paramount Plus, so I've been able to watch some of the new to me Star Trek. I started watching Discovery. Um, I've been enjoying it so far. Been watching some of the original episodes. My favorite episode last night, we watched Balance of Terror. That's my favorite original series episode. We are going to use one more animator's trick here that even Frank Miller used in Sin City. That they used on Scooby Doo. They used on basically every Flintstones for sure. Desiree says she saw Squid Game 2 while she was at her sister's for Christmas. I've not seen Squid Game, so you'll have to enlighten me. I don't know this one. Oh, Desiree gave me it's so good with lots of O's on the so. Is that on Paramount? Is that one I've got to add to my list? Oh, okay, it's on Netflix. I have Netflix, so my brother gets me Netflix basically every year for Christmas. It's really nice of him to do that every year. It's a good brother gift, so he knows I got something to watch. Keeps me out of trouble. I actually found a cool gift for my brother this year. I always get him a box of baseball cards because that was something we did as we were kids. I get him a box of like packs so that he can either give to kids. He works in minor league baseball. He can either give to kids at the ballpark or he can open them up for fun. But this year, I actually found on eBay a jersey of his team from their inaugural season. And it had like the inaugural patch on it and everything. And I just, he hasn't worked there that many years, but I just thought that would be something cool he could have in his office. Just something historical for the team. Desiree says all episodes of both seasons are available. Don't watch it dubbed. Watch it with subtitles, or you'll miss some stuff in the second season. Okay, yeah, I can do subtitles, no problem. I would say I use, and this is weird. Like sometimes I will watch it. If I watch it again, I'll watch it dubbed the second time. There are movies that I have in that sort. I actually give myself some more space on this. The animator's trick that I mentioned earlier is when you draw someone running, especially running comedically fast, you have them floating off the ground. You can do this not just with people, but with cars. Like Frank Miller would draw a car in Sin City, and it would like fly off of the road. It would create that effect. So we want that effect with our character running away. So, we also want him basically leaving the midground for the background. And, just like in funny old cartoons, running with their arms straight up in the air. I feel like we can get most. I'll probably have to revise some of this, but I feel like we can get. A draft of this whole page down. Little sash. Little hands. And honestly, the detail at this distance be a little more than a silhouette. So we can give ourselves a little bit of grace on the proportions. Helmet. It's tough to see from there. We'll use the same trick. Why not? Block that out. Which way does his sash go? His sash goes from left to right. So left to right. So actually it's going to feel like this. I had his sash backwards. Continuity experts would be furious if that one shrimp guy had his sash going the wrong way on the same page. It'd be in one of those all-time internet bloopers for bumbling comic creators that they'd want to put me on. Here we go. There's our little man running away from the severed arm. Break there. And then there's actually going to be the classic, The letters get continually smaller as they go off into the background. And then take it all the way across the page. And there you have it. And so, to me, that page is ready to put some ink on. So I feel like we got enough done this evening. Let's use our fancy zoom out so you can see the page again. Establishing all the carnage going on with the Krill Force. Got our character here. The zoom in, the hand coming towards him, touching him on the shoulder, and then he's running away scared, and you see the limb falling down from the water. So thanks everybody for hanging out tonight. We had a productive evening. And yes, Krill Mayhem. Yep. I hope everyone has a excellent rest of their week, and I hope to see you all next week. Excuse me, next Wednesday. So thanks again, everybody, and have a good night.